Hey guys, welcome back to Token Tech. Today I want to do a video showing you guys how to put Linux on a MacBook. Now I had already planned to do this video a couple weeks ago, but now I think it's even more important to show you guys how to do this because of Apple's new announcement that they're going to be moving to ARM-based chips and not Intel anymore. Because they're not going to use Intel anymore, that basically is them saying, hey, in about 2 years or so, we're not going to be supporting our Intel laptops. Now, maybe if you buy one this year, they'll support it a bit longer. But if you have an older MacBook or MacBook Pro like I do, this support cutoff is probably going to be coming up pretty soon. And so having a way to keep these devices usable into the future is going to be extremely important. So today we're going to go over how to make a install media for Linux, how to put it on your MacBook, and just some of the little obstacles you might have to get over. There's really only one, and I'll tell you guys right now, it's that Wi-Fi won't work out of the box. You do have to do an update, but without Wi-Fi, that means you're going to have a wired connection to do this update. So things you need are one, a flash drive. I'd say at least 8 gigabytes for the OS that we're going to be writing to it, and an Ethernet cable to be able to directly wire your connection into the internet so that you can download that update, and with that update then Wi-Fi will work, but it won't work immediately. Alright, so just keep that in mind. If you want to do this on your MacBook, at least the 2012 version that I have, you need to have wired connection to the internet so that you can download that update, and then Wi-Fi will work. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we need to do is open up our web browser of choice and make sure that we have our flash drive present. Okay, so what we need to do is grab Etcher, and I'll post links in the description so you guys should be able to easily get here. And if you see here, Etcher for Mac OS, this little program is going to allow us to write the software onto the flash drive as a bootable media. Alright, so that's downloaded. Now we're going to go and get our version of Linux. I always do that. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling so much here. So we're going to go ahead and grab Pop OS. Now Pop OS is made by System 76, and it works really great on basically any computer, but also especially on laptops. I've noticed that it works really well with laptops. Now if you have NVIDIA graphics, you would grab this version. If you don't, you're using Intel integrated graphics, you go ahead and grab this version right here where it just says download. So we're going to go ahead and grab that, and we're going to go ahead and save it. And that's going to take, as it says here, about 2 minutes for me. It could take a little longer for you. It is a relatively big download, so keep that in mind. This might take a little bit of time. Now, why you would do this instead of Windows? Well, one, maybe you don't like Windows, maybe you don't want to deal with Windows, but two, is that this actually is recommended to be run on a computer that only has 4 gigs of RAM. And a lot of the older MacBook Pros, like the one I have, which is a Pro model, only has 4 gigs of RAM. Now I could upgrade the RAM, but I don't feel like spending money on a computer this old. So the fact that it only has 4 gigs of RAM, this is actually optimized for 4 gigabytes of RAM. Windows, not so much. Windows will run like crap on 4 gigs of RAM. Trust me, I've tried it. I've actually installed it on the MacBook just to mess around with things. It didn't run very well. I didn't like it. It had a hard time with the trackpad, and battery life seemed to be worse, and it chugged. And I have an SSD in this one, so believe me, it was not the hardware. It was definitely the OS not running well on 4 gigs of RAM. I guess you could say that was the hardware, but anyways, Linux, in this case Pop OS, runs quite well on 4 gigs of RAM. So you won't have a problem there if your system only has 4 gigs of RAM. More RAM is always better, but 4 gigs will be plenty for this. And as it says, minimum is 2 gigs. So even if you have 2 gigs, you'd be just fine. So that's almost done. So once that's done, we're going to move over to our downloads folder. Okay, so you can go ahead and Command Q to get rid of that. Let's go ahead and open up our Finder, and let's go into our downloads. So in our downloads, we have Etcher and we have Pop OS. So first things first, we want to go ahead and run that Etcher, and I believe this should install Etcher onto our machine, and then we'll be able to run that program to take Pop! OS and put it onto our flash drive. Alright, so at this point we're going to go ahead and install our flash drive, and then we're going to go and run Etcher. So right here we have Etcher. We should be able to go to your applications folder and then run Etcher. This should run. Open. And again, this will allow us to write the OS to our flash drive. So we're going to have to pick a file, flash from file, go to our downloads and click on Pop! OS and click open. So it's going to use Pop! OS ISO to write to our flash drive. You see I have my flash drive here, my SanDisk. You can change this if you're using a different one if it didn't auto select, but if you only have one flash drive in, it will usually auto select the correct one or the only one they have plugged in. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and click flash. Now it should ask you for your password. I already put that in. So you guys will have to type in your password, and then it should start flashing the drive. As you can see, it's flashing mine. This could take actually a little while as well because we're dealing with a lot of stuff going on right now. So I'll come back once this is finished. Alright, so our flash and validation has completed. So now we should be able to restart our computer and boot from the flash drive. I'm going to show you guys how to do that, but unfortunately the screen capture doesn't work when I do that. So I'm going to have to use my camera. So sorry if it doesn't look quite as good or quite as professional, but let's keep going and let's see where we get. Alright, give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Alright, so we just finished with Etcher, and I switched over to the camera because, like I said, the screen recording won't work throughout the rest of this process. So for the rest of this, or at least for the middle section of this, I'm going to be using my camera to show the screen. So sorry about that. But let's go ahead and continue. So the next step is to go ahead and restart. Now before we do that, I just want to make clear that this process of putting Pop! OS or Linux on your drive is going to wipe out your install of Mac OS. So what you're going to want to do if you want a way back is to make a install media on another flash drive. So you need a separate flash drive to make that install media for Mac OS. Now there is a way to do it over the internet with a MacBook, but I've had issues with that in the past. So the best way to do this is to use a flash drive to make a backup for Mac OS. Alright, so go ahead and do that. There's plenty of videos and guides online to figure that out. If you want me to do it, you can ask me and I will do that for you guys. But do that if you want a way back. Otherwise, let's go ahead and continue. We're going to restart our system. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. Now what we're going to do is once it starts to boot up again, we're going to want to hold down the options button. Alright, so right there it's rebooting. I'm holding down options. And we should get this screen right here. What this are showing the bootable drives that we have on our system. This SSD is where I have Mac OS installed. This is the priority boot. And then we have this one, which is our flash drive, which we just created. We're going to go ahead and continue with this. Now it is a little blown out, but this is saying try or install Pop! OS. We're going to press enter, and it's going to go ahead and continue and get started. Now, what you're going to see here is a whole bunch of text fly across the screen. Don't freak out. That's exactly what is supposed to happen. Just let it do its thing. And this could be faster or slower depending on the speed of your machine, what drive you have, how much RAM, what CPU you're using, and so on. So just let this do its thing, and it should give you, basically get you to a desktop environment where you can either try it out or just go ahead and start the install process. Now, if you only try it out, you can stop right there and still be able to boot back into Mac OS, or you can just go straight on and install it. Now, I know that I like Pop! OS and that I want to use it, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with the install. So, of course, we're going to select English, United States, that's where I'm from. Yep, English, defaults. And now we're going to pick how we want to install it. Do we want to do an advanced or clean install? Clean install is the easiest way to go, and this will, again, nuke your drive, so we'll get rid of everything. So we're going to select clean install. Do we want to encrypt? Now, Oh, sorry, this is saying that if we want to plug it in. I'm going to go ahead and say ignore for now. And we're going to press on our SSD right there and click erase and install. Now it's asking us if we want to encrypt. I'm going to say no, I don't want to encrypt. Now you can if you want to. And then it's going to go through this process of basically wiping the drive and creating the partitions it needs to create, and then installing Pop! OS. And basically when that's done, we will be done. So you can kind of stop watching here if you feel like this is good enough for you, but I'm going to let it finish out so that if there's anything you want to just watch to make sure everything's going normally for your system, you can keep watching, and maybe I'll talk a little bit more. But definitely, this is basically going to be it. I'm going to do a second video showing my setup, so how I like to get Pop! OS looking and running on my system. And again, why I chose Pop! OS is because it does work really well with laptops, especially Intel-based laptops. The power management, all that stuff is really good out of the box. And oh yeah, actually you should keep watching because I'm going to show you guys the update to get Wi-Fi working. So again, like I said in the beginning, you do need a Ethernet cable. You need to be able to directly connect wired connection to the internet so you can do an update. After that first update, it will download the driver for the Wi-Fi chip in this MacBook. I honestly have only tested it on this MacBook. This is the only one I have, so I don't know if the newer MacBooks have different Wi-Fi chips that just work out of the box, but this one, this 2012 version, does need an update. So make sure you have an Ethernet cord, run the update, and that will allow you to have Wi-Fi. Again, I'll show you guys that in just a second. So I'll come back when this is finished. Alright, and so when that's done, it will take a little bit of time. You do want to press restart device, or you can shut down, either one is fine. But restart the device so you can go back into Pop! OS. Alright, now we are in our desktop. After you did the setup process in which you picked a username, a password, put the time zone, and all that sort of stuff into Pop! OS, you'll get to this screen. Now if you look up here at the top right corner, I have this symbol because I have a line in wired connection, as you can see. Because of that, I have access to the internet. This does not have Wi-Fi out of the box, as I said earlier. So what you need to do is go ahead and run a system update. So to do this, using the GUI, or the graphical user interface, you go ahead and you kind of let it check for updates, downloading a list of updates to the OS and installed applications. It's already telling us in our notifications there are 2 available updates. There might be more. And we're going to just wait for this to finish scanning and checking to see what needs to be done. Alright, so now that that's installed, let's go ahead and grab our Wi-Fi driver. That's what this one right here is for. It's going to ask for our password once again, so go ahead and type that in, and it will go ahead and start installing. Alright, so now that that's completed, we should be able to have Wi-Fi right here. There it is. It's not connected. We can go ahead and select a network, and here we go. These are the networks in my area. I can connect to one, type in the password, and join in just like any other device. So go ahead and use that. As you can see here, you click your activities, you have your favorites. If you go ahead and click this, you have all the pre-installed applications. There are hotkeys for all these things, just like in Mac OS. They're different, they're not the same ones, but if you can get used to that, you can get used to this really well. I love Pop! OS, and I'll do follow-up videos showing you the different types of customizations I like to do to Pop! OS. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and let me know what you think of Apple switching to ARM-based CPUs. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one.